अच्छा, so just like that, okay. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome to you on this first Safety Pro Expo. And this webinar is basically part of this exhibition. This is the first virtual exhibition on the health and safety at workplace. मेरा और आपका साथ होगा 4:30 तक. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपको, आपने हमें ज्वाइन किया. मैं आपको थोड़ा सा इस वेबिनार की जो बेसिक बातें हैं उनके बारे में बताता चलूँ. कोविड-19 या कोरोना, जिसके हम मुख्तलिफ नामों से अब जानते हैं, मेरा ख्याल है हर घर में और हर बच्चे की ज़ुबान पर अब आ चुका है और इसने हमारी ज़िंदगी यकसर बदल के रख दी है. और अगर हमें याद हो कि हमारे जो एग्जीबिशंस होते थे, जिसको हम नुमाइश कहते थे, वो नुमाइशें होती थी, हज़ारों लोग आते थे जाते थे, मेले का समा होता था और सब लोग एक दूसरे से मिलते थे, गले मिलते थे और मुख्तलिफ एक्टिविटीज़ में हिस्सा लेते थे. लेकिन अब ये जो नुमाइशें हैं ये हमारे कमरों तक महदूद होकर रह गई, हमारे घरों तक महदूद, हमारे दफ्तरों में महदूद होकर रह गई. तो अब हमने यही सोचा कि ये इसको किस तरह से लोगों तक पहुंचाया जाए, किस तरह से उस पैगाम को, उस काम को जारी रखा जाए. तो यही वेबिनार जो जिसमें आज आप शामिल हैं उसी सिलसिले की एक कड़ी है. और इस वेबिनार में हमारे साथ बहुत ही जय्यद और बहुत ही मुस्तनद किस्म के एक्सपर्ट्स हमारे साथ शामिल हैं. लेकिन इससे पहले कि मैं उनका तारुफ कराऊं, मैं थोड़ा सा इस वेबिनार के बारे में आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि ये वेबिनार और ये जो सेफ्टी प्रो एक्सपो है, ये पाकिस्तान की एक ऑनलाइन मीटिंग प्लेस है जो कि 24 से 28 अगस्त 2020 के दौरान मुनक्किद होगी और आज भी ये जारी है. और बेसिकली इसका मकसद ये है कि जितने भी हमारे हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी से मुताल्लिक आलात हैं या जो एक तरीक़ेकार हैं, उनको हम जो इस्तेमाल करने वाले हैं, ये जो यूज़र्स हैं, ये जो बायर्स हैं, उन तक हम कैसे पहुँचाएँ. इवेंटेज एक कंपनी है जिसने इस पूरे प्रोग्राम को मुनक्किद किया है, तो उसके लिए मैं उनका शुक्रगुज़ार हूँ. और इसका जो हमारा थोड़ा सा फॉर्मेट होगा वो इस तरह से होगा कि हम इसको हम अपने जितने भी पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनका एक मुख्तसर सा तारुफ कराने के बाद हम उनसे कुछ बेसिक सवाल करेंगे. और हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स चूँकि जो हमारे स्पीकर्स हैं वो माशाल्लाह इतने एक्सपर्ट हैं अपने एरिया के कि वो हमें इन सवालों के अलावा भी अपनी मर्ज़ी के मुताबिक और अपनी ज़रूरत सहूलत के मुताबिक हमें मज़ीद मालूमात से आगाह करेंगे जो भी ये समझते हैं कि हमारे इस प्रोग्राम से मुताल्लिक हैं. तो चलते हैं जी हम थोड़ा सा तारुफ की तरफ. और हमारे साथ आज शामिल हैं जी प्रोफेसर सईद कुरैशी साहब, जो कि वाइस चांसलर हैं डाउ यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ हेल्थ साइंसेज कराची के. और एक चीज़ और खुसूसी वो ये कि प्रोफेसर साहब को अभी हाल ही में तमगा इम्तियाज़ जो है वो दिया गया है उनकी खिदमात के सिलसिले में. तो प्रोफेसर साहब हमारी तरफ से बहुत बहुत मुबारकबाद कबूल कीजिएगा. हमारे साथ ही अली अकबर शाह साहब हैं जो कि CEO और कंट्री हेड हैं रैकेट बनकीज़र पाकिस्तान के, जो कि बेसिकली हमारे होम हाइजीन प्रोडक्ट्स, जिसके बारे में हमें बार बार कहा जाता है कि जी उनको इस्तेमाल करें और साबुन से हाथ धोएं, तो बेशुमार जो चीज़ें हैं वो रैकेट बनकीज़र पाकिस्तान में बनाता है और मार्केट भी करता है जी. तो इनका भी एक बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन है. नईम अहमद सुबहानी साहब हैं जी हमारे साथ, जो कि प्रेसिडेंट हैं अमेरिकन सोसाइटी ऑफ सेफ्टी प्रोफेशनल्स के. प्रोफेसर एजाज अहमद खान साहब हैं जी हमारे साथ, जो चीफ ऑफ पीडियाट्रिक्स और चेयरमैन हैं जी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ इन्फेक्शियस डिजीज़ डिपार्टमेंट एट शिफा इंटरनेशनल हॉस्पिटल इस्लामाबाद. और हमारे साथ मोहम्मद दाऊद साहब हैं जो कि कंसल्टेंट हैं एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक के ऑन ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी जी. तो हम कुछ थोड़ा सा सिलसिला आगे बढ़ाते हैं जी. मैंने बात लंबी कर दी, उसके लिए मैं माजरत चाहता हूँ. प्रोफेसर एजाज साहब, सर आपसे मेरा पहला सवाल या पहला एक आपसे हम मालूमात लेना चाहेंगे कि जो हमारे हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स हैं, जो हमारे पैरामेडिक्स हैं, हमारे डॉक्टर्स हैं, हमारे जितना भी स्टाफ है, वो आपने देखा होगा कि इस पेंडेमिक के अंदर वो सबसे ज़्यादा एक्सपोज थे. تو آپ ان کے بارے میں کیا بتائیں گے اپنے تجربات کی روشنی میں کہ کس طرح سے انہوں نے اس کو ہینڈل کیا اور کس طرح سے وہ اس کو مزید بہتر کر سکتے ہیں؟
ٹھیک ہے، تھینک یو ارمن جی. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. تھینک یو فار آنرنگ می ٹو بی پارٹ آف دس ویری پریسٹیجیس پینل. بات ہے کہ ہمیں اپنی جو ایکسپیرئنس ہے وہ شیئر کی جائے، کیونکہ یہ یاد رکھیں کہ ہمارا جو یہ ایک نئی بیماری تھی، ایک بہت بڑے لیول پہ ایک بہت بڑا جان لیوا قسم کی بہت کنٹیجس ڈیزیز تھی جس نے پوری دنیا کو لپیٹ لیا، اور اس میں تقریباً ہر طبقہ، ہر عمر کے لوگ اور ہر ریجن کے اور ہر انسٹیٹیوشنس کو یا ہر ریجنس کو انہوں نے لپیٹ میں لیا تھا. تو اس وبا نے یا اس پینڈیمک نے ہمیں بہت کچھ سکھایا بھی ہے، اور خاص کر کے ڈاکٹری کمیونٹی یا میڈیکل کمیونٹی کو اس نے تو بہت زیادہ سکھایا، کیونکہ بہت سی چیزیں ایسی ہیں جو کہ ہم ابھی سیکھا ہے اور ابھی سیکھ بھی رہے ہیں. اور سب سے بڑی جو اس وبا کی شکل تھی، ظاہری بات ہے کہ ہر ایک کے لیے خطرہ تھا، اور اس میں بہت چیلنجز ہمیں سامنا کرنا پڑے، جس میں سب سے بڑا چیلنج یہ تھا کہ اس بیماری کو کیسے ہینڈل کیا جائے مریضوں کے لیے بہتر کیئر کے لیے اور اپنے آپ کو بچاؤ کے لیے. تو شروع میں جب یہ بیماری کا ہمیں جب پتہ چلا تو ظاہری بات ہے کہ ایک کھلبلی مچ گئی، بہت انگزائٹی تھی، اور یہ میرے جیسے انفیکشس ڈیزیز اسپیشلسٹ جو کہ 30 سال سے اس شعبے میں، مجھے بھی اس کا سامنا کرنا پڑا. تو ایک میڈیکل کمیونٹی کے لیے خاص کر کے ڈاکٹر جو اس طرح کے مریضوں کو کیٹر کرتا ہے، اس میں چیزیں ہمیں چاہیے کہ ہم یہ اسکلز ڈیولپ کریں. اور سب سے پہلا بڑا میرے خیال میں سب سے بڑا جو بیسک چیز تھی وہ اویئرنیس تھی یا نالج تھا، جو کہ ہمیں ایکوائر کرنا پڑا اور جلدی سے کرنا پڑا، کیونکہ بہت سی چیزیں چینج ہو رہی تھیں اور تقریباً ہر دن چینج ہو رہی تھی، بلکہ دن میں کئی دفعہ چینج کرنی پڑی. تو ہمیں ایک اویئرنیس اور اسکل نالج کی ضرورت تھی جو کہ ہمیں ایکوائر کرنی پڑی، اور سب کے لیے تھا، چاہے وہ نرس ہے، ڈاکٹر ہے، چاہے ایڈمنسٹریشن ہے. خاص کر کے اگر اسپتالوں کی بات کریں، ایک اور چیز جس میں کہ ہمیں ٹریننگ کی ضرورت تھی. ٹریننگ جیسے فار ایگزامپل ہمیں کہ اس مریض کو کیسے ہینڈل کرنا ہے، اس کا ٹیسٹ اگر کرنا ہے تو کہاں پہ ٹیسٹ کرنا ہے، اسپتال کو کیسے پریپیئر کرنا ہے اپنے آپ کو. تو وہ چیزیں شاید بعد آخر میں آئیں گی، لیکن ایک ٹریننگ کی چیزیں چاہیے تھیں. اچھا، ایک اور جو چیز جس کی زیادہ ضرورت تھی وہ تھی کہ ہم ہر مریض کو سسپیکٹ سمجھیں گے، اور ہمارے جو ایس او پیز بنے ہیں جو کہ انٹرنیشنل بھی تھی اور لوکل ایس او پیز بھی بنی یا آپ کی گائیڈ لائنس تھی، پیشنٹ کی ٹیسٹنگ کا ہے چاہے اس کی پلیسمنٹ کا ہے، تو وہ یا اپنے آپ سے بچاؤ کریں، تو ایس او پیز کو اسٹرکٹلی کیسے فالو کرنا ہے، اور اس کے بعد یہ ہے کہ اپنے آپ کو کیسے مانیٹر کرنا ہے، اور سب سے بڑی بات یہ کہ اپنے آپ کو مانیٹر کر کے ارلی رپورٹ کرنا چاہیے. تو ڈاکٹر کے حساب سے یہ بیسک چیز، اور اس میں دیکھیں ہم روزانہ ابھی بھی سن رہے ہیں جب آپ ٹیلی فون کرتے ہیں موبائل پہ، تو وہ بیسک چیزیں وہی ہیں کہ جی آپ نے 4-5 چیزیں کرنی ہیں، کہ جی آپ نے سوشل ڈسٹینس کرنا ہے، ہاتھ دھونا ہے، ناک آنکھ اور منہ کو ہاتھ نہیں لگانا، ٹھیک ہے، جب بیمار ہو تو کیا کرنا ہے، وغیرہ وغیرہ. تو یہ بار بار یہ چیزیں ہمارے اندر آہستہ آہستہ ہمیں اندر آ بھی گئی ہیں، اور اس نے ہماری قوم کو بھی ایک اچھی میرے خیال میں عادات یا بیہیویئر چینج کی طرح ہمیں کر دیا. ہمارے بیہیویئر چینج ہو گیا، اور ہماری اپنی اسپتالوں میں جہاں پہ لوگ ہاتھ نہیں دھوتے تھے، ابھی وہ جو کمپلائنس ریٹ ہے ہینڈ ہائجین کا اوپر چلا گیا. میرے خیال میں کیونکہ لمبا ہو جائے گا تو آئی تھنک آئی اسٹاپ ہیئر اینڈ اف یو ہیو اینی ادر کوسچن. تھینک یو.
رائٹ سر، تھینک یو ویری مچ سر. ہم پروفیسر سعید قریشی صاحب کی طرف آتے ہیں. سر تھینک یو ویری مچ اگین فار جوائننگ اس. سر یونیورسٹیز کے بارے میں جو ایک کانسیپٹ ہے پوری دنیا میں کہ یونیورسٹیز جو ہیں وہ علم نالج یا کریٹ کرتی ہیں، تو سر آپ کیا سمجھتے ہیں کہ اس کیس میں اور اس ہمارے انوائرمنٹ کے اندر یونیورسٹیز نے اور خصوصاً آپ کی یونیورسٹی نے کس طرح سے کنٹریبیوٹ کیا سر اس پورے پینڈیمک؟
آپ نے بالکل صحیح کہا, یونیورسٹیز نالج بھی کریٹ کرتی ہیں, انوویٹ بھی کرتی ہیں اور نئے طور طریقے دریافت کرتی ہیں, لوگوں کو ٹرین کرتی ہیں اور ایک انٹلیکچوئل نالج کریٹ کرتی ہیں جو کہ وائڈ اسپریڈ ہوتا ہے. ہماری یونیورسٹی کا جہاں تک تعلق ہے, ہم نے ٹیسٹنگ کی کٹس ابھی پاکستان میں نہیں آئی تھیں تو ہم نے ٹیسٹنگ شروع کر دی تھی. اس کا ریزن یہ تھا کہ ہمارے پاس مالیکولر پیتھولوجی کی فیسلٹیز ہیں اور ہم نے ساؤتھ کوریا سے پرائمرز منگوائے اور یہ وائرس کی ٹیسٹنگ ہم نے شروع کر دی, PCR کی ٹیسٹنگ شروع کی تھی. اس کے بعد جو ہے چائنا سے امپورٹ ہوئے اور بعد میں سوئٹزرلینڈ سے بھی کٹس امپورٹ ہوئی ہیں. دوسرا ہم نے کیا کیا تھا کہ ہم نے ٹریٹمنٹ کا جہاں تک تعلق ہے, امیونوگلوبولنس کو جو پلازما تھا, پیشنٹس جو کہ ریکور کر چکے تھے ان کے پلازما سے ہم نے وہ امیونوگلوبولنس اسپیسیفکلی کووڈ-19 کے خلاف وہ ہم نے آئسولیٹ کی اور وہ استعمال کی ہیں اور اس کے بہت اچھے ریزلٹس ہمیں ملے. دوسرا ٹیسٹنگ میں شروع بھی ہم نے کی اور ہم نے اس کو گورنمنٹ کے ساتھ, سندھ گورنمنٹ کے ساتھ مل کر فری ٹیسٹنگ جو ہے اس کو بھی دوسری لیبارٹریز کے ساتھ ساتھ ہم نے کیا, لیکن اس وقت شروع کے وقت میں ہماری کیپیسٹی جو تھی وہ سب سے زیادہ تھی کسی بھی لیبارٹری کے مقابلے میں. اور اس کے بعد دوسری ہاسپٹلس نے بھی اپنی کیپیسٹی بڑھائی, ہم نے اپنی کیپیسٹی وہیں رکھی کہ ہمیں اس کے کاسٹس کا بھی خیال رکھنا تھا. تو یہ بہت ساری چیزیں تھیں. اس کے علاوہ ہم لوگ ریسرچ بھی کرتے رہے ہیں اور ہم نے یہ بھی آئیڈینٹیفائی کیا کہ پاکستانی پاپولیشن میں جو ACE2 جین ہے اس میں ویریشنز ہیں اور میوٹیشنز ہیں کمپیئر ٹو دا جنرل پاپولیشن. تو یہ بھی ایک سگنیفیکنٹ فائنڈنگ تھی. اس کے بعد ہم نے اس کو زیادہ بڑھایا نہیں ہے کیونکہ اس کے کاسٹس بہت تھے, لیکن یہ آئیڈینٹیفیکیشن ضرور کی تھی. تو یہ کچھ چیزیں ہیں جو کہ ڈاؤ یونیورسٹی نے کنٹریبیوٹ کی.
رائٹ سر, تھینک یو ویری مچ سر. ابھی ہم آپ کی طرف واپس آئیں گے. علی اکبر شاہ صاحب, سر تھینک یو ویری مچ فار جوائننگ اس. آپ کے بارے میں سوری اکبر علی شاہ صاحب, آئی ایم سوری سر, آپ ہمارے ساتھ ہیں نا؟ اکبر علی شاہ صاحب ہمارے ساتھ ہیں نا؟ جی سوری, آپ کو میں دیکھ رہا ہوں. اوکے سر, یہ جو ہمیں یہ کہا گیا کہ جی آپ ہاتھ دھوئیں اور ڈس انفیکٹنٹ استعمال کریں اور اپنی ہائیجین کو امپروو کریں, تو میرا خیال ہے ریکٹ منکیزر میرے علم کے مطابق دنیا کی سب سے بڑی آرگنائزیشن ہے جو کہ یہ سارے اس سے متعلقہ پروڈکٹس جو ہیں وہ بناتی ہیں. تو پہلی بات تو یہ ہمیں بتائیں کہ کیا یہ جو گائیڈ لائنز بنائی گئی تھیں آپ سمجھتے ہیں کہ یہ صحیح تھیں, اور اس سے کس حد تک ہمیں بچاؤ کی صورتحال جو ہے وہ اس نے ہمیں بچایا ان بیماریوں سے, اور کیا فردر اس میں کنٹریبیوشن آپ پلان کر رہے ہیں؟
جی تھینک یو ویری مچ اویس صاحب. سب سے پہلے تو I would like to congratulate Eventage to set up this session, also the exhibition that they have planned for the next few days, and I think it's a very important, relevant topic, first of its kind, having a virtual expo. So hats off to especially Al and Nazia who were in touch, and thank you for inviting. Also, I'm grateful to all the medical practitioners, the frontline. Clearly, بہت بڑا ان کا ایک رول رہا اور ہے ابھی بھی. پچھلے کئی مہینوں سے we were dependent on the medical professionals. انہوں نے فرنٹ لائن کا کردار ادا کیا, and I think without them we would not have been here where we have reached. Now coming back to your question, I would like to just give a brief introduction of RB. RB کی ہسٹری از اراؤنڈ 200+ years of history. RB آج تقریباً $56 billion کی مارکیٹ کیپٹلائزیشن ہے RB کی. RB is present in around 60 countries with its offices. دو ہمارے پروڈکٹس جو ہیں وہ across the world available ہیں. We have around over 40,000 employees working across the world. پاکستان میں RB پہلے ریکٹ اینڈ کولمن کے زمانے سے جانی جاتی ہے, اس نام سے زیادہ مشہور تھی. 1957 سے ہم پاکستان میں آپریشنل ہیں. پچھلے 20 سال سے with Reckitt Benckiser as an entity we are focused on health and hygiene and nutrition. یہ 3 بڑے کیٹیگریز ہیں جس پہ ہم آپریٹ کرتے ہیں. It's a very purpose driven business. When I say purpose driven business, we have a dream and a cause to protect, heal and nurture in the relentless pursuit for a cleaner and healthier world. ہم جو بھی کرتے ہیں ہم اس کو سامنے رکھ کے پلان کرتے ہیں کہ how can we play a role in creating a cleaner and healthier world. اور اس دفعہ جب یہ COVID-19 کی کرائسس آئے, جب یہ پہلی دفعہ نیوز پہ لیٹ دسمبر ارلی جنوری میں جب یہ نیوز اسٹارٹ ہوئی, nobody was expecting کہ اس کا اسکیل کتنا بڑا ہوگا, یہ کتنی جلدی پھیلے گا, اور یہ I think everyone was caught in a surprise. اور regardless کہ ہم کیا بناتے ہیں اور کیا مارکیٹ کرتے ہیں, the fact remained that the speed at which it spread and the demand it created, we felt that we were really right in the center of that pandemic, where people were dependent on our products, they were relying on our products. اور ایک 10x kind of demand بھی ہم نے دیکھی. اور ہمارے لیے 2 طرح کے چیلنجز تھے ویسے صاحب. ایک چیلنج تھا کہ لوگوں تک یہ پروڈکٹس کیسے پہنچایا جائے, بٹ دوسری طرف یہ بھی چیلنج تھا کہ اپنے امپلائیز کو, اپنے ورکرز کو ایک لاک ڈاؤن کی سچویشن میں ان کو کیسے پروٹیکٹ کیا جائے. When we produce something we rely on multiple supply chain sources around the world, اور اتنی بڑی ڈسرپشن اکراس دا ورلڈ تھی مارچ اپریل میں, جہاں پہ فیکٹریز بند تھی, ایئر لائنز آپریٹ نہیں کر رہی تھی, شپنگ لائنز آپریٹ نہیں کر رہی تھی. So it was quite a challenge of the March, April, May to produce products and to make them available. Clearly, when it comes to working with the government and the guidelines, so the guidelines were built based on WHO guidelines, and I think they were spot on. No two things about them. The question was کہ guidelines تو ہے, لیکن لوگوں تک یہ کیسے پہنچایا جائے, اور عام لوگوں تک یہ میسج میں ہم کیا کردار ادا کر سکتے ہیں. So we were one of the very first few companies جنہوں نے ہینڈ ہائیجین کے اوپر پوری کیمپین چلائی گورنمنٹ کے ساتھ مل کے. مارچ, اپریل, مئی, جون, بلکہ ابھی تک کیمپین آپ دیکھ رہے ہوں گے, مختلف طریقوں سے ہم نے ہینڈ ہائیجین کے میسیجز دیے. ہم نے سوشل میڈیا میں, ہم نے ٹریڈیشنل میڈیا, انکنونشنل میڈیا, ہر طرح سے ہم نے میسیج پہنچانے کی کوشش کی. اس کے بعد ہم نے تقریباً 500 ملین روپے کا ایک بجٹ سیٹ اسائڈ کیا. اس کا مین پرپز واز اباؤٹ کریٹنگ اویئرنیس اراؤنڈ ڈفرنٹ کائنڈ آف ہائیجینس. اس کے علاوہ ہم نے PPEs بہت سی پروکیور کی, اور ابھی تک وہ ڈونیشنز چل رہی ہیں. بہت سی ڈونیشنز NDMA کے تھرو ہوئی. اس کے علاوہ ہاسپٹلز میں آغا خان ہاسپٹل, all the major hospitals across the country we have been distributing PPEs. راشن بیگز ہم نے لوگوں کے لیے بنائے, اور کچھ ڈس انفیکشن ڈرائیوز ہم نے اکراس دا کنٹری ڈس انفیکشن ڈرائیوز بھی چلائی. سو وی ہیو پلیڈ آور رول and we are continuing to play our role because it's not over yet. We are just witnessing certain the curve has gone down, but the real reason why it has happened is yet not very clear. So we are all very let's say very cautious. While we are happy the fact that it has gone down, but we are very cautious at the same time. So guidelines were very relevant. I think it was more about creating awareness. اور جیسے ابھی تھوڑی دیر پہلے پروفیسر اعجاز نے ذکر کیا کہ بیہیویئرل چینج آ چکا ہے. سو آئی فیل ویری گڈ اباؤٹ اٹ جب وہ کہتے ہیں کہ بیہیویئرل چینج آ گیا ہے, لوگ ہائیجین کا خیال رکھ رہے ہیں. تو آئی تھنک یہ ایک ہماری ون ہے. سو اگر کوئی بلیسنگ ان ڈسگائز ہے تو وہ یہ ہے کہ وی آر مور ہائیجینک ایز اے نیشن.
رائٹ سر, تھینک یو ویری مچ سر. ابھی ہم آپ کی طرف اگلے سوال کے لیے آئیں گے, آپ ہمارے ساتھ ہی رہیے گا. نعیم احمد سبحانی صاحب, آپ ممبر ہیں انٹرنیشنل آرگنائزیشن اور سوسائٹی کے, امریکن سوسائٹی کے سیفٹی اور ہیلتھ کے. تو سر آپ ہمیں بتائیے کہ 2 میں آپ سے اکٹھے ہی سوال کر لیتا ہوں کہ کسی بھی آرگنائزیشن کا ایک امپلائر کا کیا کردار ہے اپنے لوگوں کو بچانے سے. جیسے ابھی اکبر صاحب نے بھی بتایا کہ ریکٹ بنکیزر نے بھی اپنے امپلائیز کا خیال کیا. تو آپ کیا سمجھتے ہیں کہ اخلاقی اور قانونی ذمہ داری لوگوں کی کیا بنتی ہے؟ اور دوسری بات یہ ہے کہ امریکہ تو میں اسپیسیفکلی نہیں کہوں گا، لیکن جو بھی ترقی یافتہ ممالک ہیں ان کے اندر اور ہمارے اندر جو چیلنجز تھے اس وبا کے دوران، ان میں کیا فرق تھا؟ جی
بہت شکریہ آپ کا. پہلے تو میں آرگنائزرز کا شکریہ کروں گا جنہوں نے موقع دیا بات کرنے کا، یہاں بلایا، اور اس چیز کا بھی بہت شکریہ کہ یہ بالکل ایک نئی اپروچ ہے جو ٹیکنالوجی کے استعمال سے ہم اکٹھے ہیں اور پوری دنیا سے بات کر سکتے ہیں. تو یہ بھی ایک ہم سیکھ رہے ہیں. جو فزیکل میٹنگز تھی وہ ورچوئل میں کنورٹ ہو گئی ہیں، اور ورچوئلی بھی ہم بہت کچھ کر رہے ہیں الحمدللہ. تو یہ اس کی بھی میں سمجھوں گا کہ بہت اچھی بات ہے کہ یہ ورچوئل سیشن ہمارا چل رہا ہے. اب میں اپنی بات پہ آؤں گا کہ جو آپ نے پہلا سوال کیا کہ آرگنائزیشنز میں اس کو کس طرح امپلیمنٹ کیا جاتا ہے. تو پہلی بات تو یہ کہ سب سے اہم بات تو وہی ایس او پیز کی ہے، جو ایس او پیز ڈیفائن کیے گئے تھے، جس میں ہمارے میڈیکل ایکسپرٹس جو ہیں انہوں نے اس چیز کو، ریسرچ کو یعنی سرکولیٹ کیا کہ آپ کی ہینڈ واش اور آپ کی جو ماسک کا یوز ہے، یہ دو چیزیں انہوں نے بالکل کلیئرلی ڈیفائن کر دی کہ یہ دو موڈز ہیں جن سے یہ ٹرانسمٹ ہو سکتا ہے. تو جب ٹرانسمیشن کا پتہ لگ گیا تو یہ پتہ لگ گیا کہ کہیں یہ ہوا میں نہیں اڑ رہا. تو اس طرح سے لوگوں کو اویئر کرنے میں ہمیں آسانی ہوئی کہ یہ دو چیزیں تو منیمم ہیں جن کو آپ نے پکڑ لینا ہے اور اس پہ چلنا ہے. پھر آفس ایٹماسفیئر میں سب سے اہم چیز ہوتی ہے بزنس کنٹینیوٹی. تو کوئی بھی کمرشل آرگنائزیشن جو ہے بزنس کنٹینیوٹی کو مینٹین کرنا چاہتی ہے. تو انیشیل فیز میں تو ایوری بڈی واز ورکنگ فرام ہوم، یہ ٹیکنالوجی کا استعمال کر رہے تھے، ورچوئل سیشنز ہو رہے تھے ہمارے میٹنگس کے، جو اب بھی کنٹینیو ہیں، لیکن اب وی آر ان دی آفس. اب آفسز میں بیٹھ کر بھی ہم ورچوئلی ہی بات کر رہے ہیں، لیکن آفس کے ایٹماسفیئر میں جو کنٹرولز ان پلیس ہیں وہ تقریباً ایس او پی سے متعلق ہی ہیں. یعنی جب آپ آفس میں انٹر ہوں تو اپنا ڈس انفیکٹ کر لیں اپنے ہاتھ سے. آفس کے باہر انٹرنس کے اوپر ہی وہ لگا ہوا ہے ڈس انفیکٹنٹ، کہ آپ وہیں سے اپنے ہاتھ صاف کر لیں. یعنی آپ جب انٹر ہوں گے تو یو آر ناٹ کیرنگ اینی تھنگ ان سائڈ دی آفس. پھر آپ نے بلڈنگ میں داخل ہونے سے پہلے ماسک پہن لیا. ان کیس اگر آپ نے گاڑی میں نہیں پہنا ہوا تو اٹ از مینڈیٹری، اٹ از اسینشیل کہ آپ آفس میں داخل ہوتے ہوئے پہن لیجیے. پھر یہ کہ اگر آپ نے کامن ایریاز میں جانا ہے، فار ایگزامپل کھانے کی جگہ پہ یا ٹوائلٹس میں جو کامن پلیسز ہیں، یا فوٹو کاپیئر پہ یا پرنٹر پہ، تو وہ ایریاز ایسے ہیں جس میں مختلف لوگ مختلف وقت میں ہاتھ لگاتے ہیں، ان کا ڈس انفیکشن، ریگولر ڈس انفیکشن آف دوز پلیسز. پھر ایک ہفتے کے بعد ڈس انفیکشن آف دا ہول ایریا، ماپنگ. تو یہ کنٹینیوس پروسیس تھا، فائٹ کرتے رہے اور سکسیسفلی over few months we have been working in the office اور other organizations also. تو ان میں کوئی ایسے کیسز ان آفس نہیں آئے. تو یہ this is evidence or a proof that if we follow the SOPs, minimum SOPs, we can control the spreading of this disease. پھر آپ نے ایک سوال کیا تھا کہ ہم کس طرح کمپیئر کریں پاکستان کو ایڈوانس ورلڈ کے ساتھ. تو ایڈوانس ورلڈ میں بھی کچھ پرابلمز آئے. جس وقت یہ شروع ہوا اس وقت میں کینیڈا میں تھا، مجھے وہاں ٹھہرنا تھا اور آئی واز آلموسٹ اسٹک، لیکن لاسٹ فلائٹ سے الحمدللہ آئی کوڈ ٹریول. تو وہاں بھی بڑا پینک سچویشن تھی، لیکن آئی واز ویری کانفیڈنٹ. میں نے کہا کہ ہماری قوم کی امیونٹی کا لیول زیادہ ہے، بیکاز اٹس کائنڈ آف فلو. تو میں نے کہا کہ اس ٹائپ کی ڈیزیز میں ہمارا امیونٹی لیول زیادہ ہے، اینڈ آئی ہوپ اٹ واز ان مارچ، اینڈ آف مارچ. اور بعد میں مجھے ریئلائز ہوا کہ میری پرسیپشن ٹھیک تھی. یہ تو میڈیکل ایکسپرٹس بتا سکتے ہیں کہ امیونٹی لیول کا کیا اس میں رول ہے، لیکن بہرحال اس وقت بھی میری پرسیپشن تھی کہ ہمارا امیونٹی لیول بہتر ہے. پھر اس میں اولڈ ایج کا فیکٹر ہے کہ ہمارے یہاں ینگ لوگ زیادہ ہیں، اولڈ ایج میں لوگ کم ہیں، ملٹیپل ایشوز ہمارے کم ہیں. ہمارے ہاں جو ڈیتھس ہوئی ہیں وہ پور کمیونٹیز میں نہیں ہوئی ہیں. ہمارے یہاں جو ڈیتھس ہوئی ہیں موسٹلی جو میں انالائز کیا ہے اس میں ملٹیپل ایشوز کے ساتھ لوگوں کی ڈیتھس ہوئی ہیں، یا یہ کہ بہت زیادہ ایکسپوجر جن کا ہو گیا میڈیکل اسٹاف کا، ان کی ہوئی ہیں. تو ریسرچ تو بتائے گی ایکچولی یہ ہوا کیا ہے. لیکن ایڈوانس ورلڈ میں کچھ ریئیکشنز بھی تھے کچھ ایریاز میں، جیسے امریکہ کی کچھ اسٹیٹس میں لوگوں نے ریئیکٹ کیا، فرانس میں لوگوں نے ریئیکٹ کیا. جن لوگوں نے ریئیکٹ کیا کہ نہیں ہم اس کو کمپلائی نہیں کریں گے، تو دے ور ان ٹربل. تو ہمارے یہاں لکیلی لوگوں نے شروع میں ہی اس چیز کو ریئلائز کرنا شروع کیا، اور جس طرح مختلف لوگوں نے پروموٹ کیا اسے میڈیا پہ، तो लोगों ने टू सम एक्सटेंट रियलाइज करना शुरू किया. ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर है जिसने रोल प्ले किया है. जहाँ तक हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी का कंट्रोल है, अगर हम लेजिस्लेशन की बात करें तो उसमें तो हम बहुत पीछे हैं. यानी पाकिस्तान उसमें बहुत पीछे है और एडवांस वर्ल्ड से हमारा कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं है. और ये जो सोसाइटी का प्लेटफॉर्म है, बेसिकली हमने इसीलिए पाकिस्तान चैप्टर ओपन किया था कि जो एडवांस वर्ल्ड में जितनी रिसर्च हुई है, जो काम हुए हैं, वो हम किसी तरह से वहां से लेकर उसको टेलर करके पाकिस्तान की रिक्वायरमेंट में इम्प्लीमेंट करने की कोशिश करें. तो हमारा रोल है एक सोसाइटी का कि इसमें, ये हमारी जो सोसाइटी है इसमें प्रोफेशनल्स ने मिलकर गवर्नमेंट को भी सपोर्ट किया, लेजिस्लेशन पे मॉडल्स बनाए, इसमें एजुकेट किया लोगों को, सेमिनार्स, कॉन्फ्रेंसेस. तो हम इस हद तक पहुंचे कि हम कहीं ना कहीं कंट्रीब्यूट कर सके स्टेट के साथ. अब ये ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ लॉ बना देने से कुछ हो जाएगा. इसमें एक बहुत बड़ा इसका एक बैकग्राउंड है कि जब तक कंट्री की इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन बेहतर नहीं होती, जब तक कंट्री में इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन इस लेवल पर नहीं पहुंचती जहां पर लोग रियलाइज करें, उस वक्त तक इसको लोगों को मनवाना बड़ा मुश्किल है. सिर्फ लॉ बना देना और लोगों के पास प्रॉफिट मार्जिन ना हो किसी इंडस्ट्री में तो वो इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं करते. और कोर्ट्स भी अगर उनको इम्प्लीमेंट करने की कोशिश करेंगे तो उनको भी पता है कि इकोनॉमी अगर नहीं चल सकती, किसी का प्रॉफिट मार्जिन नहीं है, तो हम फोर्स नहीं कर सकते. तो ये साइड बाय साइड चलती है कि आपकी इकोनॉमी बेहतर होती जाए, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन होती जाए, उसके साथ फिर लेजिस्लेशन भी आ जाए. फिर लेजिस्लेशन के बाद एक बड़ा अमल होता है जिसको हम कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग करते हैं, कि इदारों की कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग, लोगों को एजुकेट करना कि आपके हक में बेहतर है, एम्प्लॉयर्स को एजुकेट करना कि इट्स गुड इन्वेस्टमेंट, और एम्प्लॉयज को एजुकेट करना कि इट्स गुड फॉर यू, फॉर योर हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी, यू विल नॉट बी इंजर्ड. और इन सबको मिलकर एजुकेशन के साथ, एनफोर्समेंट के साथ, फिर कोर्ट्स का एक रोल होता है कि वो किस तरह इन्फोर्स करेंगी इसको पेनल्टीज की फॉर्म में, इम्प्रिजनमेंट, व्हाटएवर इट इज. तो ये पूरा एक साइकिल है. अल्टीमेटली बात हम करते हैं कल्चर की, कि कल्चर डेवलप करना दैट टेक्स टाइम. तो एडवांस वर्ल्ड में शायद डेकेड्स लगते हैं इस चीज को डेवलप करने में. हमारे यहाँ स्टार्ट ही नहीं हुआ है ये प्रोसेस. तो अगर हम आज स्टार्ट लेना शुरू करें लेजिस्लेशन और ये सब चीजें, तो मे बी डाउन द लाइन हम 20 साल में ये अचीव कर पाएंगे. तो जब शुरू हो जाए उतना ही बेहतर है. सुबह ने लेजिस्लेशन शुरू कर दी है, और उसके अगला स्टेप होगा और एनफोर्समेंट होगी. तो वर्क प्लेस सेफ्टी विल बी नीड ऑफ टाइम. इंशाल्लाह वक्त के साथ साथ लोग भी रियलाइज करेंगे. इस वक्त तो अगर किसी इंडस्ट्री में कोई एक्सीडेंट हो जाता है और या माइन में हो जाता है या फायर हो जाती है और 20-25 लोग मर जाते हैं, तो लोग कहते हैं ठीक है, मर गए, क्या हुआ. एडवांस वर्ल्ड में अगर एक आदमी मर जाता है, उस पर काफी उस पर लेदे होती है और बात होती है कि क्यों आदमी मरा, किस वजह से मरा. तो ये एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग बेहतर होना कि इंसानी जान की वैल्यू है. वो एम्प्लॉयर को भी एहसास हो कि मैं अकाउंटेबल हूँ, मेरी इंडस्ट्री में मेरे काम की वजह से अगर एक आदमी की जान गई है या कोई लॉस हुआ है, तो देन ही इज अकाउंटेबल. तो वो अकाउंटेबिलिटी अभी नहीं है. बहुत सारी इंडस्ट्रीज जो है उसकी लेजिस्लेशन है ही नहीं. तो ये सोसाइटी के प्लेटफॉर्म पे हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इसको हाईलाइट करें और स्टेट को भी रियलाइज करें और पब्लिक अवेयरनेस भी इस पे जनरेट करें. और ये जो आज हम सेमिनार कर रहे हैं या ये वेबिनार हो रहा है, ये इज अ गुड टूल टू एजुकेट पीपल आल्सो. और बड़ी अच्छी हमारी डिस्कशन हो रही है. तो मैं समझता हूँ मैंने बात को समराइज कर लिया है. मजीद कोई सवाल होगा तो मैं जवाब देने के लिए.
Sir, Naeem Ahmed Subhani Saab, sir, thank you very much. I'm just looking at the screen and I've just noticed the question from our next speaker as well, Mr. Mohammad Dawood, who is just requesting that we should be talking in English because we have some international participants as well. My apologies for that, but my experience in the past has been that, Urdu and for our national participants, Urdu is much more receptive and understandable. So again, my apologies for the international participants, but I hope they also understand. So I think let's take the question from Mr. Mohammad Dawood in English. So Dawood Saab, thank you very much for planning to enlighten us with your knowledge and expertise. My question to you would be that what are the global best practices, since you represent the Asian Development Bank and you know a lot of organizations in the developing countries, and of course you're aware of the things happening in the developed world as well. So what are the kind of best practices through which during this epidemic or pandemic, which we have learned and we should replicate or at least be prepared for in the future?
Yes, thank you very much, Avesa, for inviting. I think to a great extent, it's already covered by Naim Saab or Ijaz Saab, that what practices we need to adopt to cope with such pandemic issue. So certainly when it started, there was many confusion about the mode of transmission, about the severity, about the age groups, about the complications, etc. But the passage of some time, maybe in a few weeks' time, when we had a greater idea how it spreads and how exactly it affects and the severity levels on different age groups and different groups of population, then we adopted our control measures as well. So generally, the control measures adopted, like I believe everyone knows so far, is maintaining the social distance, personal etiquette, sneezing and coughing etiquettes, or washing hands, or using disinfectants, etc. Probably we are slightly maybe lacking in terms of implementation of these controls on some of the workplaces, especially in the context of Pakistan. So I saw many of the organizations introducing these so-called disinfection tunnels without any proper risk assessment or without any control measures where that wastewater is actually going to. And they have just installed something in the name of disinfection without probably realizing the after effects or the adverse effects it may have on the human health as well. Because disinfectant is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be inhaled. It's only supposed to be washing your hands, or wash your hands or clean your hand with your disinfection. Again, in terms of workplaces, what we should have considered, or what actually many of the workplaces are considering as well, is again the general principle remains the same about the mode of infection. It spreads through the human contacts or through the water droplets. So maybe avoid the crowd. So generally we have crowds in our workplaces in attendance area. So we need to manage that as well, so that there are less number of people. There is a crowd during lunch hour as well. So maybe we need to segregate the time, split our working groups in 2 or 3 maybe different batches, so that one group have maybe a lunch break 11:30 to 12:30, another group 12:30 to 1:30, instead of having 1 hour lunch break for all the workforce. So that will reduce the human contact, that will help us increase or maintain our social distance as well. Work from home as much as possible, analyze your work groups you're working. So whoever can work from home, or is the nature of job permits him to do from home without any effect on the productivity, that can be done. Although another significant issue that has been raised over the past few months with working at home is increased stress level and ergonomics issues. So in our workplaces, we may have ergonomic workstations as well, but most of the people who have computer work, they are working from home. Certainly a person doing the physical work is still on the site. So the person who is supposed to sit on the computer station for like 6 to 8 hours, but in his home, he might not have an ergonomically safe workstation. So that's an important area to look after as well. Again, lunchtime, so attendance machines, we can avoid some crowds as well. At the entrance, I think I see most of the companies, they have some control measures in place that they check the temperature at the entrance, or they're using disinfectant. But once they enter up, I think probably another area that can be improved in some of the workplaces that I have visited in past few weeks is that maybe just make one group of 5 people who are working together and just let them work together on daily basis in the same group. So don't try to rotate those work groups within your workplace as well. So that will help us spread the transmission in case there is any other person who is infected. Limiting the appointments, visits, etc. So these are the different areas that some of these are implemented in our workplaces, but some of them, I think it might need some further study or some further consideration as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Daud Saab, for a very comprehensive summary of what needs to be done, and sharing the best practices, what has worked and what has not worked. So for those of us who have just joined us, this webinar is being organized by Eventage, which is basically a leading trade promotion group in Pakistan, and they're presenting a number of international B2B exhibitions worldwide. They provide consultation and assistance to the exporters to expand their business beyond geographic boundaries and trade shows and events like exhibitions. And they also help people in showcasing their products and services to their future and prospective clients. So thank you very much, Eventage, for organizing this. So let's just move on to what we have largely covered what has happened and how we have reacted to this. So now we move to the next round before we take the questions. And this will be more focusing on how do we need to go anything happens, how do we need whenever and actually taking time to put our things together. So God forbid if there is another round which we are listening about it. So I think how should we remain prepared? So my question would be to Professor Ijaz Khan Sahab once again, that how do you think these tertiary care hospitals, which have been a backbone for providing all the care to especially those who were actually in a life-threatening situation, how should they remain prepared, and what services they can provide extra in addition to what they have already been given, considering that they have now time to put things together and are now recovered from this episode. Professor Ijaz Khan sir.
Thank you, Ji. I think the pandemic has brought a lot of people together. So health institution भी together रही हैं. अगर national level पे देखें, तो on the national level, both the public hospitals and the government hospitals and other institutions came together, whether they were organizations, whether they were societies, whether they were scientists, they all came together. So a big role, of course, was provision of medical care for both COVID and non-COVID patients. So I know that a lot of institutions in Pakistan, especially the large institutions that I know, have worked as being on the front line of managing COVID pandemic. I know that the challenges that we saw was how to expand our services, how to modify our services, and we had to do that almost on a daily basis, because I know for sure that the number of calls that I got both from as a consultant and as an expert, as an infection control and as a doctor working in the hospital was tremendous. So we got like 50 to 100 calls, and with those many calls being attended, I now have a severe right shoulder pain. So I am going to my daily physiotherapist nowadays. So anyway, so the hospitals have to upgrade their current services, whether they are inpatient, whether they were outpatient services, and we had to curtail a lot of patient load, which was routine, which was not urgent. And so that means closing the clinics, closing the emergency services, limiting your patient inflow. So, and we had to adjust for these changes so that the patient care is given to the most needy. So I know that in the public there was a lot of anxiety, because what you heard in the media was that their bed capacity is being overwhelmed, and that was being said from day one, and it did happen, and we also saw it, and I think a lot of institutions saw it. So how we modified it, I know that we had to open new units for COVID care, and we had to relocate our patients to area where there is non-COVID areas, what we call it, in which the regular care was given to emergency care. So a lot of elective surgeries were cancelled. Only emergency care was given. The hospital has to upgrade their services in terms of diagnostics. So laboratory has to come up to make sure that they have testing available in their hospital. So even initially, if I can remember, I know that there was so many discussion on almost on a daily basis that what tests should be available. We formed an executive committee on COVID, which met every day, even in Eid days, even on holidays, for 1 hour daily, and we used to get it, which was a coordinated effort, multidisciplinary effort. In all the disciplines came together, especially infectious disease, infection control, intensive care, emergency care, nursing, pharmacy, and administration, they all came together to address each and every issue. And I know for sure that we had issues almost on a daily basis. We had to address that there and then. There were a lot of anxiety, for example, on the healthcare service, healthcare workers, in terms of their exposure. You had to train them. You had to make sure that they comply. If they are not complying, you had to address them. If they were exposed, especially, how to take care of them. For patients, we had to make sure that the best care is available in terms of equipment, in best terms of, for example, in their treatment. So the pharmacy was on board. We had to consult other people. We had to seek help from other experts as well. And we wanted to make sure that the patient is being discussed. So there were like daily guidelines being made or modified, and they were upgraded as well. And the for example, how to take care of a patient come to the emergency room, where to place them, when would you suspect it, if they are going for some scan or radiology services, how to take care of them, how to make sure that you minimize exposure to healthcare workers, and also the equipment which is being exposed. Because remember, the patient may be there for 10 minutes, but all your healthcare workers and all your staff is exposed. So you have to make sure that you address their anxieties as well. So psychological services were made available. Employee health was working round the clock, and they had to address their, because a lot of employees became positive, and a lot of needed help in terms of quarantine, a lot of needed help in medical care, and we had to address that.
Correct.
And also remember that they were going back to home, and so there was anxiety on their part that they're going back and exposing their loved ones. And I for sure can tell you that a lot of our employees who turned positive also went back, and their family members were also became sick. Interestingly, the compliance of PPEs was not because within the hospital, but outside the hospital, and it is a global phenomena, because I know for sure that there are a lot of literature which said that the employees were, when they go out in their communities, they were not complying with their PPEs or the basic things, and that's how they turned positive. And they were also making their family members sick, and some of them even lost their parents or their loved ones. And that was very devastating for them as well.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, for a very, very comprehensive strategy to deal with any future onslaught. So let's move on to Sir Professor Saeed Qureshi Sahab. Sir, you have a big responsibility on your shoulders, you and other universities, because we saw an immediate response from Science and Technology Department, and then of course the Higher Education Commission announcing some research grants and projects through which we could get some better remedies in the future. But we understand that this is not a short-term solution. So what do you think the universities are doing, and what universities should be doing in terms of its long-term strategy to come up with very, very robust kind of products or services to deal with this kind of situation in the future?
Well, as I said previously, we went ahead and isolated immunoglobulins against COVID-19, and that work is in progress, and that has been financed actually. Initially, it was financed by the university itself, but subsequently it has been financed by the Higher Education Commission, and we have commitments for this project. At the same time, that now you know that there are a number of countries with a number of universities who are dealing with production of vaccines. And through the NIH, Islamabad, we are also involved, or I should say we are also getting involved in trials for these, one of these vaccines. And at the same time, we are in discussion with another organization, Australian organization, for trials of that vaccine as well. But one must remember that these vaccines are not at hand, and they are going to take, I don't think these will be available internationally till next year, and we will have to make do with all the preventive measures that have been advocated for preventing COVID-19 and at the same time any other viral respiratory infection. At the same time as doing this, we obviously have to have facilities ready, and that's what Dhar University has been doing. We have improved our facilities at our own hospitals, and during the middle of the pandemic, well, it's an ongoing pandemic, we were also handed over a partly built hospital to convert that into an infectious diseases hospital, and 1/3 of those allocated beds have been functioning now for more than 6 weeks, and another 2 floors will be added on in the next 10 days or so. So all in all, we are working on all fronts, prevention, treatment, and trying to discover what is to be done and what needs to be done.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. You definitely have a big responsibility on your shoulders. So just moving on to Akbar Ali Shah Sahab. I assume you're also a pharmaceutical company on home health, and you're also in the hospital health. So these companies globally, like yourself, would allocate a lot of resources towards research and development to come up with products 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. So what kind of the strategies are you adopting, and what kind of research lines are you taking on to deal with such kind of situations and come up with better options in the future?
Right. So we have a couple of things. The first one is we are not a hardcore pharmaceutical company which is working on vaccines. So we are working on OTC consumer goods. That's our domain. Our focus is on empowering a common man to take control of his health, and by ensuring that there are products which are available, accessible to everyone across the bottom of the pyramid. Now, in that regard, we, like every company, every large company, we have a pipeline in which we work. It varies from 3 years to 4 years, depending on what kind of work is required beforehand. When it comes to R&D, we have center of excellence across different parts of the world. It's a large organization. Depending on which category are we working on, we have that center of excellence in a certain part of the world. With that, then we look at what kind of claims that we want to substantiate, and based on that, we agree on the protocols, we agree on the standards. Then we have across the world some really top-notch labs. Now these labs also vary depending on what kind of research you want to do, or what kind of substantiation you require. If it comes to something like COVID-19 or Corona, this is something which was there. Not COVID-19, but Corona itself was a claim that we were already having on our products like Lysol and Dettol in different parts of the world. However, when it came to when it was about COVID-19, it was a particular strain. So the first question was, which lab, accredited lab, has that particular strain, and therefore which lab can we go and really test it? And then are they experts on viruses, and which kind of viruses? It's enveloped viruses, non-enveloped viruses, all those technicalities. And then we have a very lengthy audit process. Once we qualify in that lab, it's a very lengthy audit process that we go through. Post that, it goes through a regulatory model, and regulatory approvals, depending again if it's an FDA or if it's a European standards, goes through a regulatory model. Eventually goes through a legal before it comes in the hands of commercial part of the organizations, where we could put that claim on our products and go public on that. So it took us quite a while to come up with a claim on our products like Robin Bleach, which is a disinfectant, which kills COVID-19. We have that claim now. We are on air, on TV. We are talking about it. So it took us a good, I guess, around 4 months to come up with that claim. Despite that, everything was all geared up, but still, in order to make sure that we clear all the gates, it took us a while. Similarly, for our brands like Harpic toilet cleaners and Harpic bathroom cleaners, we also have a claim of COVID-19 on both of our on our brands. It goes through a similar process. Dettol and Lysol, they also have these claims. So it took a lot of effort. We really wanted to assure the consumers that if you take you can really take control of your health. It's not a rocket science if you just make sure that you're washing your hands, you're disinfectant with the right products, with the right kind of concentrations, and right kind of quality standards. You can really safeguard yourselves and just follow the SOPs. I'll just touch upon Uwais Saab on some of the topics which some of the panel members also shared. There is obviously the COVID-19 is very much out there. It has not gone. The lockdowns have been eased, but it does not mean the COVID-19 has disappeared. And this is therefore there's a higher degree of concern that are we waiting for a wave 2? Is there a wave 2 which is going to come, or are we really lucky that the immunity is really strong, and because the population is 2/3 of the population is a young population, and a couple of other factors, we just happen to be lucky versus, let's say, our neighbors or all our neighbors. So it only time will tell, but the fact remains that till the time vaccine becomes available to masses, from then to now, this whole 6-8 months of a period, it requires extra cautious. Now, while we are talking about infections, the other part of the social issue is the economic issue. You can't put everything under a lockdown. You have to open up the places, open up the factories, open up offices. However, what are the new norms, and how are we going to ensure that everyone is safe? I give you an example of RB. We closed down our offices on the 11th of March in Karachi. And we closed all our sales offices across the country. We shut down factory for some time just to understand, the SOPs and implement the SOPs. Since then, it's been now almost 6 months. We are working from home, and it's been 6 months, and we have not opened up any office yet because we are still concerned, and we are still looking at. We have protocols ready. If we have to open our office tomorrow, we can open. We have done physical changes in the office layouts. We have made sure that no one, crosses in the office. There's a one-way, kind of walk stream. There are no doors that you have to push. The seating arrangement has been done to make sure that, there is enough distance between people. At no point in time we'll have more than 25% of our pre-COVID kind of strength in the office. It's a different world altogether, and it's going to be like that for days to come. And therefore, this extra cautious, extra care is needed. Now, when I see that, there are certain industries which depends on food. For example, our tourism industry, we see every day, people are going to Kavan and northern areas. Also for business, people want to travel. For hotel industry, it's very important that they open up their hotels. But the fact remains that even if they disinfect, let's say, first of all, how are they doing it? And they want some accreditation for, reputable companies who could ensure that, these are properly disinfected. But at the same time, for a common man, when we are talking about opening schools, we are talking about opening colleges, and other places. We want to be comfortable that are they properly disinfected? Am I safe if I visit them? Are the toilets properly cleaned? Are they, the public spaces are really disinfected? And unless I am not really confident, I'm not going to go back to school. I'm not going to send my children back to school. And how can we ensure that this is disinfected? Now, not by the organization which has no credibility of disinfection. If they claim that we can disinfect, it does not mean anything for a common man. So common man understands these brands. They understand the protocol behind it. They trust them and therefore they use them in their homes. What we have started off as RB, because I was reading some questions also, we've started partnering with organizations to help them open up and give our credibility to those institutions and to those organizations. We've started that in the US. We are now a strategic partner for American Airlines to ensure that the passengers are, when they're taking that flight, it's properly disinfected. We're also using some data. We're also understanding passenger behavior. What are their different needs now in this COVID world? We also partnered with Avis, which is a huge rent-a-car organization across the world. We are working with Hyatt Regency. It's a Hyatt, a chain of hotels across the world. So we have opened up very different, let's say, strategic partnerships with institutions which require this kind of support. And precisely, through this event, we also have a stall where team is, actively participating, and they're willing to exchange ideas if anyone wants to know more about it.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very comprehensive strategy outline. Naeem Ahmed Somani sahab, we always have this question in the back of our mind as a developing nation for the last 73 years, that we have very limited resources at hand. So what strategy quickly would you suggest for organizations which do not have deep pockets like RB or any other organization? Simplest 1, 2, 3 that anybody can do, even the vendor on the street or somebody who has an employee size of about 5 or 10 people, even families. 1, 2, 3 strategy that you think is appropriate for our health and safety.
Well, if we focus the community and common man, I think the media has a role to play. Unless we educate common people, vendors and small people, unless they realize that safety has a value for them, hygiene has value for them, health, occupational health value for them, they will apply onto them. So it is basically their awareness which the media can generate. Right. I think for public messages, there is a 10% years time with all the channels which can be utilized to spread the message. Like we are spreading the COVID-19 message, similar messages can be spread around. So unless people understand that it has value for them, they don't care about it. So they have to be educated, and I think together with the legislation and enforcement will come. But generally speaking, if we focus the masses, this is the right way. Then second thing is educating people not only in universities, but schools and basically the primary schools. Unless we educate these kids, things will not change. I mean, if we focus on culture change, it starts from the kids. If kids are educated, I have seen in the advanced world, the kids actually teach their parents because they learn from schools, and when they come home, they educate their parents that why you are violating this rule. For example, if you are violating a traffic rule and your kid is educated and he reminds you or she reminds you that why you have crossed the red light, or for example, why you're not wearing the seat belt kind of thing. So that will have an impact on culture development. So it will be a multi-directional effort addressing the community through media, educating people through educational institutions. I'm an engineer and I have not seen much emphasis on this subject even at the university level. There are subjects being taught, but not up to the mark and not taken that seriously. Now, I'm not much aware of the medical community, but in engineering, universities, it's not taken seriously. So we are working with the Pakistan Engineering Council, and we are trying to address this issue because the engineers are basically the managers, the leaders in the industry. So unless they are educated, they are aware of the safety and health requirements, the industry will not be safe. So these are the multiple directions or areas where we can focus and we can bring the whole community together.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. Last question for Mr. Dawood, and then we move on to the question answers. Dawood sir, how do you think Pakistan, government of Pakistan or other organizations, in the private sector, public sector can benefit from the experience that international organizations have gathered, like World Bank, JICA, WHO, and other organizations, the Asian Development Bank? What kind of support that they can get from these organizations, and then how can we move forward on that?
Sure. As far as these donor agencies are concerned, like I work with ADB, I work with IFC, and currently I'm working with World Bank as well. So whenever there is any project, then it's mostly done by the ICB process, we call it, International Competitive Bidding, where the bank typically requires that there has to be a joint venture between an international company and a local company, so that the competence of the local company is also increased. The compliance issues, including health and safety of all the workforce, is part of all the loan agreements. It's trickled down to all the stages of this contracting chain as well. So all the loan agreements clearly say that they have to follow the OHS legislation in the country, as well as the procedures and the policies of the bank. And like in a country, Naeem Saab had previously mentioned that unfortunately our OHS provisions or the legal system is not that strong enough. So, but still in a loan, when they say OHS legislation and the bank requirements as well, so whichever is more stringent, that is automatically applicable. So that has to be followed. In terms of ongoing this contagious disease pandemic situation, now, previously, it used to be very clear in all the loan agreements and bidding documents as well that there has to be certain control measures for HIV, for AIDS, for hepatitis, so that we can control the spread of those diseases. Now, COVID is like relatively new phenomenon. It's been only like 6 to 8 months that we know about the controls and the issues about this. So initially, for a few months, certainly most of the work was stopped on different projects because of the limited information, because of the panic to some extent, you can say. But now, as worldwide more projects and businesses are being opened, now we are working on all the bidding documents. Like these days, I'm working on some bidding documents for some African countries, and we are introducing the COVID-related requirements in those projects as well. So the project or the planning that we are working today now is, I don't think it is going to be operational in next 6 to 8 months. It may take a good like 8 to 12 months to start, but still, it's mentioned by Said Saab, Akbar Saab as well, that although the number of casualties or number of patients are on decline, but still the risk is still there. And we're not expecting maybe vaccine in next good 1 year or so. So meanwhile, we still have to adopt all the precautions. So in all the ongoing projects or the projects we are going to start in next few months, the specific provisions or requirements related to COVID will be there. OHS is already there. Previously, they were even specifying the contagious diseases like HIV and AIDS, and there is a requirement on all the projects. There has to be certain number of training sessions. There has to be certain number of awareness campaigns in community and in workforce as well. There has to be some required medical tests as well in some regions and some projects. So this is like the overall, and all this process is managed, supervised, and monitored by the bank staff itself. So myself being the OHS professional, when I'm associated with the bank, so I will monitor the performance of the consultant as well, either at design stage or the implementation stage. Then when the contractors are hired, I will monitor their performance as well in terms of contractor selection, in terms of monitoring. And of course, I'm not talking about the progress in construction, I'm talking about monitoring the health and safety. So there is a compliance department, a separate compliance department in the bank, and the compliance is one of the conditions of all the loan agreements. And that department has professionals from health sector, from safety professionals, from environment, from social issues like gender or heritage or child labor, forced labor or child labor, etc. So I think it's a quite, as an overall package, there's a quite comprehensive system that when you're working in those countries where OHS legislation is not that strong or the implementation is not that strong, the guideline is not available clearly, then the bank provides you all that guidelines to be followed on site. It is based upon the standards.
So thank you very much. Now I think we have had 2 rounds of very, very engaging and very, very informative question answer session. And I think now it's time to move on to questions. And I see on the screen that Mr. Mohammad Nawaz Khan has been one of our most active participant, I would say. He has put up 3 questions. The first question is for the Dow University. So the question is that did Dow University publish any booklet, leaflet, handbill for the information dissemination in the public about the COVID-19 for the industry and public? Sir.
No, I don't, we did not publish any booklet, but we produced a couple of clips which were used for disseminating information.
Right.
Some video clips, that's all we did.
Great, sir. Thank you very much, sir. The next question is, any plans to educate the CEOs of the companies on COVID-19 by Shifa International Hospital to install plan for the safety of the workers?
As initially when we started hearing this situation evolving in China back in early January, and then there was a lot of hype in media. So our infection control especially was asked by many organizations. I can remember a few telecommunication companies, and also we have a Pakistan State Board here, and then the Radio Pakistan, and also PC Hotel, and in which we went and had a session, awareness session for them, and told them about some grim evolving stories which had not reached, fortunately, back in January and even March, January, February and March. So we had a lot of awareness session talking about basic things, basic infection control, basic precautions, and told them about basic physiology and a basic disease that we will likely be seen. And I think mostly we emphasize about the importance of staying calm and following basic standard precautions when the situation arises.
Thank you, sir. Will Reckitt Benckiser be willing to collaborate and share its installed COVID-19 safety plans with the other smaller companies which are interested to follow the suit? Akbar Ali Shah sir.
Ji, we have a stall. As I said, there are people, you can interact with them, and if there is any proposal, we are willing to look into it in any ways we could help.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. Again, any training programs are conducted by the American Society of Safety Professionals, or is there any society in Pakistan as well? Sir, this question is for
Yes, I understand. Yes.
Sir.
Well, we conducted 2 sessions to the same, more virtual sessions were conducted, and we tried to engage people. It was in the early stage when people were not knowing much about it. There were conspiracy theories coming. People were talking negative. They were talking that it's nothing but just a wrong thing or a fake thing just to make money. So it was the time when we tried to educate people, and then in later stage we shared the SOPs, and we talked about what needs to be done to prevent this spreading in the offices. So we played our part, and we would engage with the other organizations like ILO, and so we offered our services, Employers Federation of Pakistan. So we tried our part, and definitely. I'm not aware of the other organizations, professional organizations who conducted. The Pakistan Engineering Council also, they also contributed. They passed the messages. So we played our role.
Sir, thank you very much. Amjad Mughal Sahab is asking that most of our lab hospital workers did use the SOPs now and meet with all. Yes, well, let me answer this question on the behalf of the participants. Yes, we see that, but I think it's time to really understand that there can always be a second round of this thing, and especially those who are exposed to this kind of environment must abide by the rules. Like yesterday, we had a meeting in the university as well that we are still following the guidelines, whatever they were in the tough situations, and trying, because we have episodes coming up, we have Muharram coming up, we just had Eid al-Adha. So there are a lot of congregations which we have very frequently. So I think guidelines should be followed. Madhur Sahab had this question, sorry, Madhukar. Madhukar Sahab has this question that, the workers don't follow the guidelines. It's a long one. So I'll just try to summarize that. Yes, it is very good to allow the workers to have a fresh air, but of course, it is difficult for them to follow the guidelines. I've seen practically people wearing masks for a very extended period of time. And then, of course, those who are working tough in terms of labor or construction, they always need some fresh air. Yes, there has to be some provision of the fresh air. And I think Mr. Abdullah Malik is asking, it's a good session. My question about PCR test for COVID-19 and to make it mandatory to do the test for all staff members in the industry is a viable solution. Please provide your expert opinion. Sir, anybody can take this question if you want.
I think it is a good question, because I know that if you have a test which is what we call as point of care test, a rapid test, and it is evolving, I think a lot of emphasis has been on that. If it is a good test which is has good sensitivity and specificity, then it will be even be available on the over the counter, and people can do the test and send it to the lab, specific lab where they can test it specifically. So home testing and even community testing is one of the things which is being looked at, because it is easy for people to do it, and a lot of people can benefit from it. For like congregate settings in which a lot of people work together, for example, companies, then that may be an option to make sure that, because in a certain building or in a certain organization, people mingle with each other. You may let your guard down, and so you will have this disease or similar disease being present in future as well. So testing, I think this is very attractive, and if it is available, it should be used, I think.
Sir, thank you very much, Professor. One last question. I think it is you, and probably you are the best person to answer this one. What is the impact of using PPE, especially breathing protection products, to avoid spread of COVID? And also would like to hear the impact of following the SOPs.
Okay, let me see the question again. What is the impact of
what is the impact of using PPE, especially breathing protection?
And also like to the
for products to avoid, yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the major reason to stop transmission is using few things. One is social distancing. The other is indirect method, like washing your hands. But of course, we know that COVID is spread by a droplet. So wearing a mask is very important. For a healthcare setting, the other PPEs which involve gown, gloves, goggle, face shield, and other things like hazmat suits, they are mandated or sometimes even necessary for certain procedures, for example. So it does help. I've been working in very tense situation, and I've been working with a lot of patients. Alhamdulillah, I have had no. So I tell my employees when they go, are you wearing a mask? Was the patient wearing a mask? Were you? Did you wear gloves? And how much time did you spend? And did you wash your hands? If they did, I said, be reassured that you are almost 100% guaranteed you will not get even if a confirmed case. So just basic things and you will be protected. Thank you. I hope that answers.
Sir, thank you very much. I think if you allow me to summarize what we have learned today from different speakers, please feel free to add on if I have missed out anything. Professor Ijaz Saab has actually educated us on the fact that awareness and knowledge can play a key role. The hospitals and tertiary care centers need to be prepared, and they need to have their diagnostic capacity. Public and private hospitals need to work together and also need to upgrade the response time. Professor Saeed Qureshi Saab has informed us that the universities are playing a key role in the testing as well as developing the therapies for possible treatment of this disease, and that the universities in Pakistan have been making their attempt to do whatever is in their capacity. Vaccines are a long-term thing, and people are working on that. And we certainly hope that there will be some solution to that. Next is our Naeem Saab. Naeem Saab has informed us that, sorry, my apologies. Akbar Ali Shah Saab has informed us that the supply chain challenges and employee protection were the foremost important things that an organization, a big organization like Reckitt Benckiser took care of right from the very beginning, and they're still doing that. Naeem Subhani Saab has actually educated us on the strict compliance to the SOPs, and the thing that I really liked was the legislation and the implementation of that legislation, which will play a key role now as well as in future. Dawood Saab has given us what the organizations have been doing around, the global organizations as well as the local organizations. And I think in the end, the questions that we had from our participants, they were also very, very thought-provoking. And I seriously doubt if there is anything for the time being which is yet to be unturned. But if there is any comment that what the participants would like to add on before we actually move on to the close and note of thanks.
My comment is that so many experts are together that I feel privileged that industry is here, scientists are here, and the safety people are here, and medical people are here. So it's so good to see. And I think this collaboration should remain, because I had seen this similar collaboration a few years ago when we started on antimicrobial resistance, when we had to meet veterinarians, environmentalists, and etc. Thank you very much.
Right, sir. Thank you very much. Now a bit about myself. So I'm the one who is responsible for putting the industry and academia and the researchers together. I'm at the moment leading the Office of Research, Innovation and Commercialization at National University of Medical Sciences, and I'm at your disposal to ask for anything that you may need to integrate. And with this, I would like to thank our participants, first of all, and of course our worthy panelists who have contributed hour and a half of their very, very precious time from their responsibilities, and they have educated us. Our level of understanding certainly is either enhanced or strengthened, and we hope that, God forbid again, if we have a similar kind of situation, we'll be able to deal with it much better. Sir, with this, I think I'll just say goodbye to our organizers. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.